In this video, we'll be talking about making keys for base 10 blocks. We have 4 different styles of blocks. We have the big cube, we have the flat, we have the rod, and we have the individual unit. And one thing we know is if we put 10 units together, we get a rod. If we put 10 rods together, we get a flat. And if we get 10 flats together, we get the big cube. Similarly, if I were to take the big cube and divide it into 10 equal parts, I'd have the flat. If I took the flat and divided it into 10 equal parts, I'd have the rod. And if I took the rod and divided it into 10 equal parts, I would have the individual unit. So this corresponds to our place value. When we have place value and we think about in our base 10 system, for example, if I had tenths here and I put 10 tenths together, I'd have ones. If I put 10 ones together, I'd have tens. So these correspond to our place value. And the cool thing about base 10 blocks is that we can use them to represent any 4 consecutive places. So they have to be consecutive. We're always going to have the biggest block is going to go with the biggest place, and the smallest manipulative here is going to go with the smallest place. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to put a big shape with a small value and then a corresponding small shape with a big value. So it might make sense to you to do your key horizontally. So we're always going to have this order. We're always going to have this order for our manipulatives. And then each one corresponds to a place. And as soon as we set one place, we have all the other ones. So if, for example, if I said the cube corresponds to the ones place, if that's how I set my key, then I don't have choices anymore. Now I know that this is going to be tenths, this is going to be hundredths, and this is going to be thousandths. So this is set because that's how our place values work. And I know that the decimal is always to the right of the ones place. So if I said the big cube is the ones place, then I have the rest of my key. I can shift these places to the right or left, or shift the blocks to the right or left. So let's make another key. We're going to start with these blocks. They represent our place values. Each one is going to represent a consecutive place value. And now let's say that, let's say that the flat is going to be the ones place. Well, as soon as I define the ones place, well, then I know that this is tens, this is tenths, and this is hundredths. And I know that the decimal always goes to the right of the ones place. If I'm trying to represent a number, and I'm going to set a key, I should look at my number and see what the smallest place is that has a non-zero digit. So, if the smallest place, the place furthest to the right, has a non-zero digit, then we can set this. So these work well when you have 4 consecutive digits, right, and not more than that. But, if we came down here and we had 2, 3, 5, 7, and we were trying to represent this number with base 10 blocks, well, I'd start by saying my smallest place needs to go with my smallest manipulative. So here I'm going to have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, 10 millionths. So this would be the 10 millionths place. And then stepping over, this would be the 1 millionths place. This would be the 100 thousandths place. And this would be the 10 thousandths place. So not to get confused, in whole numbers, a million is bigger, but in fractional parts here, right, this is 1 over 10 million, which is a smaller number than 1 over 1 million right here. So we want to make sure that even though we see the word million, we don't have the bigger place value than thousandths right there. We want to have the smallest place with the smallest piece right there. So it might make sense to you to have a horizontal key that lines up with your place value. We should always have consecutive parts, consecutive places, largest piece with the largest place. Hope that helps.